Stop that. Hey everyone, welcome to the 27th LIBERcast, and I'm very happy about how the podcasts work now. The amount of effort we can put into one, and I want to thank everyone personally, and I'm having a lot of gratitude for you guys for supporting the LIBERcast, and thank you very much. I'm having Will Keller tonight. So thank you for being there, brother.
Hey, it's an honor. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So I think the subject that we're gonna touch tonight are never enough shared, never talked too much about. I think there's place for more argument and debates about these things and how important it is and the influence in our lives, in our culture, in our civilization. Because I'm repeating it a lot of time. What the LIBERcast is about mind control and psychology. So I think we're gonna touch tonight on something that's very, very relevant and very, very powerful, and we're gonna explore a little bit of that. So please, Will, just talk about yourself and about your work and how it started.
Yeah, excellent. So I've always been curious and very imaginative. Growing up, grew up on a ranch. So, playing in nature all the time and had a creek in our backyard. And I was very much in the fantasy realms. I liked mythology when I was young. Went to public school, so got that indoctrination, but limited it because understood and innately I felt that, public school in general was just kind of like a big joke. So I was the rebel and didn't take it fully serious. But coming into my young adult years, I got into the music industry, which was great. It was a great stepping stone to really grow within myself, kind of embraced the egoic side of me, and was very creative in the same time, just, creating music and stuff, did a whole bunch of touring cross country and around the world. So it was a great experience. And a lot of growth there. And then many years later, into my 30s, my early 30s, started to become a father. Right before that time, I was in a very dark period of my life. Coming out of my music career, it's very heavy in partying and all this kind of stuff. I found myself in addiction. And I like to always mention this. One, it was a huge chapter in my life. And looking back on it, conquering that tribulation, it's really where my journey started, because being in my own personal hell and insanity, it forced me to look at myself very deeply and have that introspection. Now, even before that, I was always into occultism and mysticism. So learning kind of, through various traditions and initiation process, I use some of those tools to come out of my addiction. And then, and I just became a father, so the pressure of becoming a father really had to, kick in high gear to get my shit together. But what I gained from that was not only sobriety and self knowledge, gained higher level of awareness about myself and how my own psychology operated and my body. I started to seek externally and wanted to apply this to the world. So diving into, great minds like Michael Tessarion, Mark Passio, of course, really had a big influence on what was going on in the world. And just, diving deep and applying to self, and then finally coming to the self-realization that I need to do something. I have the moral obligation to speak out. And I think, anyone that comes to a general awareness of what's going on, especially on the causal factors, need to step into that role of going public and using their voice and their creativity and finding their art form to go public and create content.
Yes.
So it really is, in especially in Hermeticism and the mystery traditions, right? The great work. This isn't a new concept. This has been around for ages, and it was always referred to as the internal process of self development. So that's where my journey started, with the internal work and then applying it to the external. And this is what I've been doing for the last, at least publicly, for the last 3 years. I do public speaking engagements, which I thoroughly enjoy, and then gaining my technology skills, and creating content with a video podcast and doing presentations like that one on the screen, and then more recently, with a support group of the last 2 years, we decided to take action as a group and create the Freedom Under Natural Law Conference, or the Funnel Conference. So it's been a hell of a journey. It's all about evolution, and yeah, man, it's been going good.
Yes. I think we could look at the image. So this is one of your presentation.
Yeah, this is a presentation that I did on the One Great Work Network. It was a live stream. It's all about morality. So one thing that the viewers can know, is my style that I really try to embrace and evolve is I like to simplify the profound. So I'm trying to make content for the people that are not aware of this type of information. So I try to speak very plainly. I try to define my terms and my point of references. And this presentation right here is all about morality. So I talk about natural rights, where do they come from, and then applying it to the world and talking about the current human condition, which is definitely slavery.
Oh yes, because I think this is one of the schism that uh, stops the people from realizing it, and having don't not having this knowledge there that you're presenting, and that we swam into this knowledge, both of us, and it's I think every people should have a look into it and contemplate over it and meditate over it, because this stuff there is explaining like the way of life as an individual, and as a world, a world of people, like how to behave and how to discover truth. There's techniques to discover truth, and how to look into different sources for the information, and not looking at the same place all the time. For example, cable TV. That's this is why we're calling it a channel, you know. And you have programs, TV programs. It's always about words and wording and spelling and all these things, all these terms that people forgot with the time, and um, it's so very important to talk about these things.
Yeah, the news, right? It's the
Yes.
new info. Tune in.
Yeah.
And what you said is such a huge point that people, the current condition of slavery, control, and duress has been the programming and conditioning over millennia, right? It's down in our very being, and people really need to take a step back and ask themselves, even what you said, one basic thing, like, where do I get my information from? And when we talk about natural law, the laws of nature, or morality, what's more foundational than how human psychology, how humans operate, and how reality, the natural world, operates? So when we talk about something like this that I did in my presentation of it's all about morality, I mean, we exist, we have a body, and then when you're in that body, you are going to interact. There's nothing more basic than that. And but see, we've the majority of people have fell from the path so far into negative knowledge and false belief systems that they don't even know the cornerstones of existence, which one being morality and natural rights,
Yep.
and how we interact with the world.
It's I think most people who will listen to this can understand uh, what's motivate a person to take the path of the great work. Most of us are I think the light bringer, you know. I don't want to lose this mythological, but it's very well worded. And the light is not it's not necessarily light as such. It's more of occult knowledge, a lost knowledge, and hidden from mainstream apparatus like medias and institutional education and um, even libraries and things like that. All these institutions, and there's a big scene of people, a pool of people that are so mixed up between beliefs and knowledge, and people are mixing these two things together. And believing, it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that believing is a bad thing, but it's not based necessarily on nature and truth. And I would like to bring something that Mark Passio says. It's stop to lie to yourself. I think it's the basis for someone who wants to dig deeper into the mysteries and the traditions and all these symbols that control our life without most people don't even know it, and all these symbolism and these words that they keep repeating, you know.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to put my opinion there.
That's huge. Yeah, I mean, if you want to get into belief,
Yeah.
this is a huge part of it, right? I mean, what is belief? Belief is trusting. It's dogmatic in nature, because you're taking a body of information and you're saying that it's self-evident. So you're trusting in where the source of where you got that information. Knowing and belief, obviously there's lie in belief. So it's belief is not based on factual information. or experience. If you've experienced it, you have a knowing. Knowing is based on facts, logic, and reason. So I have been a big proponent of we need to get away from belief systems and step into the realm, or better yet, seek to know, become the seeker, this archetype. We need to activate this so people can be on that journey of the hermit and seek to know. The way culture is and how it's been for hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years, right? We're in such negative knowledge from these belief systems where these false authorities, mainly in cultural religions and now in institutions like government and scientism and the educational system, they have stepped in and they're propagating a lie. The lie is that they have a claim to truth, that they are the arbiters of truth. And because people are so programmed and conditioned and they're not activating that archetype of the seeker, they just believe them. So they send their kids to public schooling and indoctrination, which indoctrination means to speak into, right? To tell someone something. This is what conditioning is all about. And the majority of people, and I was one of those people that I could say in my life back then, right? You just believe stuff. Your teacher's an expert, or stuff you learn from school. You take it on trust. So it's a good mind state to activate the knowing, the seeker, mainly within yourself and how you operate. What do you believe? Why do you believe certain things? And I will say this too, it is okay to say something like, I don't know. I tell my daughter all the time, Violet, good question. I don't know. Let's go do some research. Let's go find out some information on that. I think even that statement is hard for a lot of people, because the ego is in the driver's seat. So they assume belief is truth. And this is a big part of the problem.
Oh, yes. And
here's a good story that I like to tell. It's kind of funny when someone says like, oh, well, how can everyone be in on it? And it's easy. Santa Claus. The majority of people in the world, they believe in Santa Claus, and they tell, parents, they tell their children about Santa Claus. What does Santa Claus do? Well, he's always watching you. So it's ultimately behavior control, right? You better be good because Santa Claus is watching. You're not going to get any gifts. So it's also rooted in materialism. But as the kid gets older and figures out or is told Santa Claus isn't real, it was all mind control, right? To take out the euphemism. What do? They grow up and they have children of their own, and they do the same thing. They tell their kids about, hey, there's Santa Claus. This man is always watching, and he's watching your behavior. So right there, that is just a simple example of how generational mind control operates. And it's the same thing in the world with every facet of human civilization, health, education, you name it. Culture in general, right? To cultivate the cult.
Yes. I when I put this word, I'm always putting the four first letters in all cap. Cult and culture, and you have this is one of the subject I like to talk about, social engineering and epigenetics and things like that. That's the aspect that it's so insidious, because most people don't realize it. It's happening, and we're talking about your parents ignore you, emotional detachment or emotional abuse or every other abuse that you can live in your life. You're gonna live with it, like, until you do some shadow work. It's gonna influence your path in life. It's gonna influence the way you behave. It's gonna influence the people that you're gonna have around you, because
That's right.
essentially, you're gonna the life is, I'm gonna talk for myself there. um, I don't believe in coincidence at all. I know it's not true. I stumble upon people, complete strangers, and I had the most beautiful conversation with them, complete strangers, and they brought me something. Every interpersonal relation that I'm having with people is it's growth, essentially. But when we're talking about worldviews and beliefs, now this is a cultural phenomena, and you're right. Intergenerational mind control is absolutely a thing. You were talking about something that we consider benign in nature, like, we're not it's not that bad, if you lie to your children about Santa Claus. But it is, you know your children are very sensible to this. They can detect lies when there's one. And I agree that we have a long way to see real change, and this is why the works of will is so important, and the work of the other great workers around. And that's why we need to push it. We need to talk about it, because voice is the best weapon we have, is the best tool we have, you know and it's telling, and it's talking about these things. And this is, I think, belief. I think it's the one of the great, yes, I agree with you, is the one of the biggest problem we have. It's getting out of this matrix, if I can use this word. So I would like you to tell us about, for the people who are uninitiated about it, what is the schism that can appear in the worldviews of people.
Excellent. Yeah, and then I'll get into that in real quick. I totally agree with you. What everything that you just said, 100%. And I actually think that conscious parenting is one of the number
Yes.
one game changers for to create more freedom in the world, because we're constantly playing catch up if parents aren't raising their children, their awareness and their level of consciousness. We're doing parents are doing a total injustice by just giving them off, sacrificing them off to these indoctrinations.
Oh, yes.
So
They're the most fragile and innocent people that they're living, so they're very precious. you know
yeah, absolutely. So when we look at the world, right? Let's talk about real quick before we dive in, worldview. This is how one perceives the world, how one thinks the world operates, and all of its inner workings. And when you start to go down this path, obviously it can be a brutal process, because you start to realize, almost every category is just filled with lies and deceptions. So
yes.
obviously the internal work is extremely important, for acceptance and staying grounded, and being pragmatic, and being a realist, and, like what you said, Fred, earlier, being honest with yourself.
Yes.
So if we divide um, two major worldviews, and these are also represented by the left and right hemispheres of the brain, or the masculine and feminine. So we look at the random component. This is the masculine side. Left brain, analytical, thinks that everything is material, and it's all about the material world, and the microcosm is all about particles bumping together, right? So usually this is someone that this is where the atheists come in. And again, and there's gradients, right? There's gradients of these two spectrums. The right side, the feminine, is more of the creative side and is more of the religionist mentality. And this is also why there's always two political parties, Republican and Democrat, because they relate to both sides of the schism and both sides of the brain to try to get the majority of people to choose a camp, right? This is the dialectic. And what we need to understand is that the middle path in between is where we need to go. We need to unify these two. This is called the alchemical wedding, when the masculine and feminine come together and they unite, meaning there is a balance. So when you look at the left brain masculine that thinks everything is random, there is a truth there, and that is we do have free will choice. We always have the choice to choose our actions and behaviors. And then looking at the right brain, or the feminine imbalance, I'm describing imbalances, the religionist, right? This is where a religion mindset believes in a savior, and they abdicate their responsibility to a quote unquote higher power, right? But one truth that we know there is that yes, there is a higher power, and that is called nature. The laws of nature are the determining factors. They are the governing laws that govern everything. So free will choice and natural law, these two together. And this is how reality operates. This is where our worldview needs to become into an alignment, so we can align our perception with the truth, which that is. And so we can recognize the truth more readily, more frequently. So we're at a higher frequency of awareness. Awareness reveals choice, meaning the more aware you are in any given topic, or in life and in reality in general, this will reveal choices, more choices to you. This is such a powerful phrase that my good friends Logan Hart and Brian Easterday have talked about many times, and I completely resonate with that. As we take in information, right, this will reveal more choice for us to discover. It's just like the trivia method, right? You need to take in a huge body of information, and this is the grammar stage, and then you process that information, and then you can put out your rhetoric or act on a situation, create your behavior. So
Yes.
worldview is fascinating. Go ahead.
Um, I think we could put something, the glue that all these beautiful things that you were saying, and we're talking about care and desire. If you don't have these two things, it's the great work is not for you. I sometimes we're taking so much knowledge. I at my experience, I took a lot of knowledge in, and I did not took the time to really take them in and meditate upon these things. And when I stopped looking for more stuff, and I decided to put more emphasis into understanding of about natural law and these principles, and what experience, how experience is transmuting in principles in life. It's hard to explain a feeling and some experience in life, but the trivium method as such is the basis of thinking. It's like a blueprint for thinking. You take the knowledge in, you take what you have to, and you trash all the other stuff, and then you get on. If you meditate or um, contemplate over the information and you find irregularities, it's okay for not being not to take everything for money. It's the more things, and when you get into the occult or a different tradition, uh, you the people, the people like us must like take an objective stance of seeing things, and try to not get into these traps, these spiritual traps that we're encountering um, during this work, because there's a lot of people who will get into their spiritual awakening, and they're gonna get trapped into new age or any derivative of this, and their worldview, the new agers, is just full on toxic.
Mm.
They're gonna bring you into their sinking hole. Their spiritual trap, cul-de-sac, like would say Mark.
Yeah, 100%. I love what you said in the beginning, how care is the glue. That is great. It's so true. What does one truly care about? Right? That's and in the mystery traditions, in the initiation process, there's techniques. One technique is journaling, observing your behavior and writing it down on a day-to-day basis. Why? Because this reveals patterns in your life. And I've used this technique, and I still do. I use whiteboards a lot, but asking these hard questions, which most people completely avoid and won't do, right? What do I really care about is one of those questions. And you can see it in people's life, what they do, because a person's life is a reflection of their internal state and their internal psychology. So someone that says something all the time, but yet doesn't have any action towards it, in his psychology, there are major cul-de-sacs, like you said, and issues and internal shadow work that person needs to work out. So a worldview is ongoing, right? Change is constant. So this is something that we need to constantly refine. One thing I love about the trivium is when a person go grammar, logic, and rhetoric, right? So when they put out their rhetoric, here's all my content on this given subject. This is my conclusion. That conclusion becomes new grammar for other people. This is what the saying is. I can see further because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. People like Mark Passio and all these great minds, they put out their work, and that allows for us to take in that information, process it, and then put out our own rhetoric. So we see how the cycle continues, and this is how we can redefine a more accurate worldview. So you said some really great points. And I think this is a problem with the New Age community, right? A lot of toxic spirituality where
Yes.
they've reached oneness, and they've reached the end of the road. We're experiencing a universe, a university. This is a schoolyard. We've been here multiple lifetimes. We've had multiple classes, and we are going to continue until we pass.
It's so fascinating to contemplate over this reality that we're sharing. There's so many beautiful things. We're talking a lot about negative and and awful things, and when you discover the deceptions of this world, this material world we're living in, um, mostly because we're attached to um, what we can see and hear and touch, and this is a reflex that we have to to have something, to have something to touch and smell and look. And people most of the time are satisfied with it. They're satisfied with this very narrow worldview of things. They're saying both hemisphere, like you were talking earlier, both are still slave in the basis of things, because they're living in under salvationism. They're helpless, and they cannot do anything, because life is randomness, and life, God is deciding everything. They're the unbalances are very well thought. Those are beautiful, terrifying mind control apparatus for the control of masses, aggregates of people, because they're um, weaponizing instinctual things in the mind of people.
Mm-hmm.
Our ancestors were obsessed with the stars, and they were giving qualities to these stars and these phenomena, and it's always been part of, well, as much as we can remember, there always been a dogma, a religion, a cult that galvanized the masses, you know, and they were changing things in society, and they were not all victim of that. Some people fought back, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but most of them were killed before, because they didn't have the best. They didn't. You don't believe in my God, so you're gonna die. And today it's the same thing, but now it's canceling. They're gonna cancel you, and how ridiculous, how ridiculous. People are slave to their phones.
Mm-hmm.
Their life is there. And I've seen one of these kids. There his phone wasn't working that day, and he was fucking losing his mind. I'm It's scary. It's scary because these people, when they're gonna have hard choices to make, they're gonna fucking lose their mind, because they're not ready to interact with the outer world, because their world is there in this little box, and then they have the box that they are inside their heads, and then you have the family unit, that there's other beliefs and worldviews, and then there's the box of society, and then so you have the box of nationalism and religions and things like that. So we could, like, include the how was it called again, the cube that is a prison, like it's turning all the time.
Mm.
I can't remember what the name was, but it's
Metatron's cube,
yes, hypercube. Yes,
hypercube. Yeah, yep,
yeah, the
exactly.
perpetual prison. And I think the spiritual warfare that we're living in, I think it's all about that. It's like you're getting out of a matrix to go into another one, and then another one, and then another one, and you can peel, like, the veils of deceptions, you know and when you experience shadowing, it's just like peeling something. You're getting off all the stratas of traumas and conditioning and programming from everyone, your friends, your parents, your family, and I think it's a very good point to bring there. Um, we could talk about this like hours because there's so many examples. But I think we could take one that is very relevant now, and this is this crisis that we stumbled, that we were thrown into, this schism, this abomination of mind control, this psyop, like the biggest one I ever seen in my life. It turned everything around. And they did it. It took almost no time to shift all the paradigm over, and we are assisting to a complete inversion of everything we thought that we had, and
Yeah.
I think there it's a good way to expose the new worldview and the new beliefs, and talking about the priesthoods that took the place of the priest, from the religion. Now they have a white coat or a black coat or another or a tie. They're the new priesthood now, and
They're the new Santa Claus, right?
yes,
From that analogy that I used earlier.
yes,
You nailed it. Absolutely. And the social engineers, I mean, they plan hundreds of years in advance. They have fail safes, plans as well, right? Because they know that they're operating they need to get in the mind, the realm of mind. So when they do this transitional period, this is how I see this period. It's a transition into the new control system. They know that consciousness operates like a spiral in the masses, right? It's going to fluctuate.
yes,
So there is going to be almost like a natural awareness. So they need to they always want to tighten the grip. So they plan these events to keep people distracted as they transition into the new control system. I would say they would even go as far as, planning a collapse to break down civilization, but yet hoard the knowledge and the technology for themselves. So when civilization builds back, right, they've dumbed down, they've knocked consciousness in the aggregate down a couple notches, and they just implement a tighter control system. So this is why worldview is so important, right? This is where
yes,
pattern recognition comes into play. We're seeing it even with the genetic modification and the scandemic. They're already flipping the script. They're flipping the script on it, and the majority of people just fall right in line. And this goes back to worldview and beliefs as well,
yes,
like we touched on earlier. So
yes. It's the shift of priesthood. You know,
exactly.
they're just transferring. Well, I mean, New Agers most of New Agers are statists. You know,
Yeah.
they have a master, and this master is money
Mm-hmm.
still. So
Well,
I
that's.
think yes.
Oh, sorry, I interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you can go. No problem.
Yeah, one of the other topics that we had listed on here was animism. This is a great
Yes.
segue into that. In my upcoming funnel presentation, the title is Revolt Against the Modern World and the Return to Nature. The whole presentation, I answer this title. But one thing that I'm talking about in this presentation is that monotheism is the belief in one God or one higher power. Obviously, polytheism is multiple. So if you look, and you mentioned the New Age movement, which they're highly addicted to money, and monotheism is still the number one religion, type of religion. Well, religion in general, the belief in one lowercase g God. In their case, it's money. Someone else, it could be science, right? Or scientism, or the state, government. So there's different types of concepts that people hold as a higher power, a superior that directs their psychology and thus their behavior and actions.
You have idol worshiping too. That
Yeah,
one is big.
definitely. Yeah,
Hedonism and narcissism. You know, all these this selfish, mindless mindset.
yeah.
You know?
We look at monotheism, right? Here's a good example of monoculture in farming. It's the complete inverse. It's inverted of the natural processes of the natural world. What do? They come and they completely destroy a large area. They destroy a natural ecosystem to do what? To plant one crop, like corn, or one vegetable. And this is where they, then, because they destroyed the natural ecosystem, right? It's not going to, the crops aren't going to actually thrive. So they have to put in all the poison and all this kind of stuff. So they're creating an artificial system. Same thing with monotheism.
Yeah,
It's artificial, and it's destructive, and actually, and especially nowadays, it's radicalized into a cult. Meaning, if you don't believe, and if you don't bow down to my God, then I'm going to violate you in some form or fashion. And this is, we see this in statism.
oh yeah, we've seen it into this joke of a psyop we had. Um, People shift like just like that. 1 week and people have converted into another religion, and this was scientism, and
Yeah.
it was very efficient because mostly we can like talk about this and trying to like like look at every little part and every little schism and every psychosis, but the true factor is fear. It's always been fear of the lack of something, fear of one's own responsibility. This is what keep this system, this illegitimate violent system, is fear. There's no way that if everybody live could live in love and care, that government would exist. It's impossible.
I agree with that. Yes. You're,
Because if
mhm.
people like and let themselves walk over them by them, it's because they like it at a certain way, in a certain way. It's a form of neurotism. It's a self-bashing, self-loathing behavior.
Yeah. And
If you have,
codependency as well.
yes, if you have a culture that uh, it's the pool of the culture is um, salvationism and authoritarian um, institution, then you're gonna have people who are gonna uh, fall part into victimhood, and you have the Stockholm syndrome to like illustrate all of that. This is one of the most dangerous one, when the people are accepting their state, or their lack of state in this case.
Exactly. This
And
is all this all has a rooting in monotheism. It's a mind state is what it is.
yes, a
And yeah,
father image, the anima, I
yeah,
think. Yes.
the animus.
Animus, yes. I mixed up the two
Oh yeah,
all the time.
that's
Yes, I
and this is what's crazy with all these cults, right? And religions. They're all religions, or I should say, they are all cults of exclusion, meaning, like Brandon said in the chat, you don't think as I do, so you must suffer. This is what all the cultural religions do as well, right? It's a religion of exclusion. You can have eternal life if only if you worship me. So I break down this in detail in my presentation, and you talk about, and I talk about all the other religions that there are: money, control, the state, government, science, all that kind of stuff. And it all operates as just like a narcissist. The relationship between government and the people, it's a narcissistic relationship.
yes.
That's exactly how it operates. There's gaslighting, there's control, there's violence, and yet the
Coercion.
coercion, absolutely. And yet the majority of people are, thank you, may I have another? And they justify and they develop codependency issues. And so they're dependent on the state. And also, mainly, victimhood. Victimhood. And it's so crazy how how people can say that, oh, well, if we don't have the state, there will be chaos and violence, when the state is chaos and violence. That's the whole premise of it.
Like this meme of if you like sell drugs or sell weapon, you know, you're in danger because the state doesn't love competition.
Exactly.
Yes.
So there's a great solution to talk about, and this is animism.
Yes.
So, and I dive in detail in this in my presentation. A lot of people are animists and they don't even know it. Now, I'll say something about labels. Labels are labels. They're description words. I'm not saying, be attached to a label. I am an anarchist. I am this. I am that. These are terms to describe a concept. It's all about your action and behavior and how you operate in the world. That's what really matters. So when I say I'm an animist, right, this is just an opportunity for me to describe something. So the definition of animism comes from Latin, from anima and animus. It means rational soul, life force, or consciousness. So animism, it was also considered to be the root religion. Religio, which means to unite, not religare, to bind and hold back. Animism is the positive connotation of religion, to reunite. This is the whole basis of animism. Animism is a state of mind. It's a psychology where you observe and experience the laws of nature, the forces of nature, and you interact with them. So an animist looks at the world and sees how everything is creative and intelligent. They can see the creative intelligence in nature, and that life force flows through all of us, and it unites all of us as one family. Anima mundi means soul of the world or living nature. This is where we get animate, like you're alive. Animate. This comes from anima. And so yeah, so this is, without blowing my whole presentation, this is a really good state of mind to, one, get in touch with and understand, and then to apply it. Because when you have the animist mindset, you are looking at the world from consciousness and energy. When you start doing that, doors start opening up, and then your worldview can become more clear, because the causal factors of everything that's going on, where change lies and the root of the problem, it always lies in the mind.
Yes, that's beautiful. Yes,
Yeah.
I like it very much, and I think most people are like that without knowing that there was a word about it. You know,
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, for sure.
and that,
Most people in the world, the majority of people, sorry to interrupt you,
no
they they
problem.
they do they perform a certain behavior that is very very animist, and that is, if they have pets like a dog or a cat or whatever, they view them as family. They see how they animate and their personality and their attributes, and and each one has their own unique personality, and they love them like family, right? But yet don't extend that same level of thinking to the world as well.
Yes, and
So
yes, it's yeah. Well, we could like talk about the roots of every little like attachment or belief, because people believe a lot of things, and most of them who are in this state of mind are moral relativists. So they're gonna, when you talk about animals, that's a good example we got there. And we have people who likes cats and birds and dogs, and they like them, and then in the other way they're slitting the throat of another animal.
yep.
So this you have this separation, this disconnection from nature, and I think it's one of the worst part of why the civilization is going down the drain now. Is that they're giving you a semblant of nature. They're giving you an alternative for nature, and that's technology. You have. I'm not talking about all these things, but it's gonna be a people were there, they will not be able to go into forest, so they're gonna like go into VR, uh, virtual worlds, and create another identity, and playing this um, completely schizophrenic, um, like I talked with a girl. She was 17 years old, and I started to talk about meat, and she didn't know where meat came from.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I was like, okay, so you don't know what meat is, and you're eating it. It's
Wow.
this world is broken. This culture that if I'm talking about Quebec and Canada here,
Hmm.
there's a lot of good people, but it's broken. It's broken, and people are completely disconnected from their spiritual self and their intellectual self. They're living their this is I'm not using the dead to talk about the people who are not I call them the sleepwalkers.
Mm.
They're sleeping, they know their eyes are closed, and they're roaming around, you know.
It's a hypnagogic state. And it is a real um, state of mind with brain frequencies that does
Mhm.
resemble sleep.
Really.
So yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, what you said, so powerful to understand. The social engineers have one goal, and that one goal is to disconnect you from nature. What is nature? The definition of nature, which is Egyptian, Commission, Necher, it means of or related to God. So it literally means God uppercase G, source, creator, um, nature itself, the life force that unites all, one thing, how I was talking about with animism. They want to disconnect people from this. So you're absolutely right. And, you know, it's funny that we hear, and even in the spiritual communities, people say like, oh, I want to return to nature. But they think that just going to go on a little trail, a little hike, and you know, put their feet in the dirt and look at the squirrels, that is actually what a return to nature means. We are talking about getting back in alignment with yourself
Yep.
and the natural world and how it operates. I mean, we have an anima and animus in our psychology. Carl
Yes.
Jung dives very deep into this, and this is associated with the mother-father figure, or the divine feminine and masculine of nature herself, of the world. So we
Principle
are like what,
principle of gender.
yeah, exactly, absolutely. So like what you said, um, about nature and separation, this is what the type of worldview they want to propagate. It's all about separation. We are separate. Humans are the apex of creation. Nature is just, you know, dead and just all about matter, right? So
Yes.
it's such an important topic, and it covers the cornerstones. We need to get back to the elements. This is the elementary, the foundation, the cornerstones of the base of the pyramid that hold the pyramid up, right? This is where it's at. Consciousness, energy, natural law, principles. This is where it is. I mean, the most valuable information that we can obtain, and also the most basic, but unfortunately, the most willfully ignored and forgotten.
Oh yeah. Sure. I think it's completely induced into the education of people. I think this regurgitation, what you're t- what the, what is called institutional education, it's
Mhm.
regurgitation. There's no learning there. This is indoctrination by repetition. You know, they're gonna make it. It's like, if you want, like, for example, with kids, on the positive side, when you want your kids to have a certain behavior, you have to repeat yourself and make him experience it so he can understand, like, doing bicycle or climbing or things like that. At first they're scared, because they're scared of what is unknown. They're scared of the unknown, and that's an example for children, and that's a beautiful thing to see, to look at them grow up and learn new things. But when we are talking about adults, that's a all other thing there. Now we're talking about dangerous,
Yeah,
because they're constantly. I repeat all the time, democracy is all a lie. People don't understand basic fundamentals of rights and things like that, your natural rights. People don't know because they're ignorant of it.
hmm,
You're probably tested it. I talk with people a lot outside of the internet. I try to talk about these things to them, but the connection is just not there. From time to time, you're gonna stumble upon someone who's have interest in it, and you you're seeding things, you're seeding information, and then you let the seed grow. Because if it's eventually they're gonna realize that maybe it's not all truth for them, but eventually they'll see it by their own eyes. You know
yeah,
that coincidence doesn't exist, things like that, and people laugh. When they hear that, they say, "Oh, you're crazy," you know. But man, when you can really see, there's no coincidence anymore, and that's natural law. It's perfect for the people who want to explore causality and cause and effect and rhythm and vibration, all these beautiful things, all these forces. Hermetism is learn to how to use it or to control it or to prevent, like rhythm, the pendulum swing from the other one side to the other, and then it's the same thing for emotional things, emotional cycles of cultures, cycle of civilization. Everything is connected together in this case. So a you have a rise in comfort, and then people are getting lazier and lazier and lazier at the time goes, and then people get what they deserve.
Absolutely.
Ignorance is the root of all evil. It really is.
Absolutely. 100%. Evil does exist.
Yes.
And when I say that, and this comes back to like the monotheism programming conditioning. When you say evil, right, that people think of like Christianity or some cultural religion. Evil backwards is live. So if you're living backwards is evil. And you're right, ignorance plays so much into that. I like what you said about parenting, because in this, with the title card that's on the screen, this is part 2 of my conscious
Yes.
parenting presentation. I dive into more of the inner workings of child psychology and parenting. And one thing that I state is that, and this applies for adults as well, right? We
Yes.
we educate ourselves. We truly learn when we are internally motivated. So, and this also applies to care, right? When you care about something, then you put energy to that, or action, performed energy. Same thing with children, right? Children are going to learn and actually learn and retain that information when they're internally motivated. And this, what you said about repetition, this is how public school, it's constant repetition, outcome based education. They just drill it in there. And most of the kids, they're not retaining the information. It's all about creating obedience in the behavior.
Yes.
So this is how you train a dog to sit, right?
Yep.
As the dog actually, does he actually understand your intention of what you're doing? No, he does it enough till he understands the command, sit, and he sits. Same thing in school, right? With authority and the children, quote unquote, authority says something, the kids do this, and this transfers. This is psychological transference into adults as well. So going back to my point that conscious parenting is one of the most important categories to influence and change the human condition, is because kids, especially young, when they're in that early formative years, they don't have all the baggage, the psychological conditioning and baggage that most adults have. And when you have that baggage, it's granite, right? It's so hard. The only way you're going to break that calcification is, in my opinion, through the heart, through inspiration. This is why I say the one great work, the external work of going public to educate people on what's going on in the world, is through inspiration. We don't need leaders, right? Leaders lead people down their own journey, their own path. We need mentors, which is different, stepping stone in consciousness, but we need artists, whatever art form. Right now, we're doing art right now. So whatever, and each person needs to discover that within themselves and then activate it with the message of freedom. So it's so important, and can be very overwhelming. Waking up to what's going on in the world can be devastating. It's supposed to be that way, because like I said, with the calcification of the rigid belief systems, they need to be broken down. Just like when you distill an herb, it needs to be destroyed, broken down, and then you evaporate the impurities, and then what's left is the pure substance. So this is the process. Definitely internal work is constant and needs to be done. I see a lot of hopelessness in a lot of quote unquote truthers, and people giving up, but this is due to lack of internal work.
Oh,
So,
sure. Well, at one point, I mean, I think I started like relatively late in my life, um, but I want to bring the point of understanding, because there this part is very important in the trivium, and the emphasis must be put on that more. Um, I think people are the attention span of people is relatively short, and that's the one thing we need to work, because for the ones who listen to it or who are discovered Mark Bassio's work, you have to be patient and you have to be resilient to it, because from my experience, it has been I've been bitch slapped around a lot. It has been a very hard path in the first years, and what I want to bring is, the more you get into this, into natural laws and morality and psychology and things like that, even revisionist history, you learn a lot about yourself by exploring the experience of the others, and that's what children do when they're growing up. So children are the best teachers, because they're gonna show you the way without doing it knowingly. You know, they're gonna be a reflection of you. They're gonna show you your habits and little things, that um, uh, little picky things that you do in your behaviors and things like that. They're gonna reflect them to you, and the thing with children is, what I admire of this state of children is that connection at the source. They're not buried under anxiety, and not the kind of anxiety that most adults are into now, and they're taking pills
mm,
to like put it to sleep, but it's getting worse and worse and worse, and the time is come, and most of them, they are getting into a spiritual crisis, but they think they're depressed, or they think they're sick, so they're going into pills, into SSRIs and antidepressant drugs to compensate this pain that they're having. They're calling it crisis.
mm,
They're not really crisis. It's because your mind it's growing. It's maturing, and you realize patterns with the time, and natural law as such show you how to deal with these cycles and patterns you have in your life. Like, I took an example of myself. During years of my life, I've been bashing myself, and this self-loathing and all these things, and breaking this conditioning there, this self-imposed conditioning, because you're doing it to yourself, and it's the worst kind of violence that can exist. It's doing it to yourself. It's treating you bad, not taking care of your body, and taking in your mind like garbage. things like that. And like Marpasso says, garbage in, garbage out. It's the same thing with worldview and beliefs. It's the same thing. You take in things inside that you don't understand. You didn't take the time to understand really, like Christians, like that I talk with. I'm explaining them the story of Christianity, and what the some I don't understand everything about Christianity, but I come to an understanding of it, all the mythology and the history that are mixed together, because there's some part of history in it. We have to be objective in our studies. You have to be constant, and you have to be resilient. From time to time, you're gonna, like, in the first year, like I was talking, I was like, it struck me hard, like the deception of your own self, your own lies, that you're living, and you wake up and you, oh my God, I did that, for years. And then you have this epiphany of you're getting conscious more and more and more with the time, and it's not easy. It's not gonna get better, you know. I still struggle with a lot of things. I still struggle to have a social life. I'm fighting against it, but it's part of me. I wake up like with trust issues and things like that, and breaking these cycles, breaking these traumas and these things, and unbury all this stuff. It's hard work, and it takes time, and you're gonna bleed, and you're gonna cry. You know, it's just like that. It's a very destructive, very it's gonna unmake you, and then you're gonna build up from solid bases, and these bases are principles, and that's the first things we must do, is differentiate principles and objective and subjective truth, because truth are principles, basically. Like natural law are like laws, but they're principles, because they're all in all aspect of our life, in the microcosm, in the macrocosm, in the biggest scheme of things. These laws are still there. So we have to, some people fight it, fight against it, and most people embrace it, like I did, like probably you did. Will you embrace natural law? And these are beneficial understandings, and the thing is putting into action. Well, when you understand the things, like the great workers, when we understand something, then we can put it out into the world. If you go there without any substance, without any understanding, it's gonna people will not like get into deeper into it. You're gonna not give them interest in it, you know. And part of the being a great worker is to repeat. Sadly, we have to repeat all the time. There's some things that I bring up every time that I'm doing a podcast, in French and in English. I'm bringing basic things, principles to the people, so they can think about it, and, like Michael Tessarian says, chew on it a little bit. By the way, if some people don't know about Michael Tessarian, you people must go see his work. It's fucking awesome. He's one of the great magi's of this world.
Yeah, he's incredible. His work is incredible.
Yes.
And
yes, go on.
I'm sorry. I'll let you finish.
Oh, I was done anyway. So
got it. Yeah, no, I mean, what you said, I've experienced that. I'm experiencing it as well. And I agree fully. People need to understand that, and this is also part of animism, is interacting with yourself and nature as one, right? So you're having these experiences. Someone can come to learn about natural law, but then not experience it and recognize it and observe it in their own life. And that can create issues as well, right? I mean, obviously, these laws are in play within everything constantly. So, working with them consciously is extremely important. I think this is part of the goal that we're trying to do, and why, like yourself, the one great workers, why this is such a big responsibility, and we care so much about this because we know that everyone affects each other. We understand how natural law works, and that if we want to create freedom in the world, this is a collective action, which comes down to the individual. The individuals make up the aggregate or the collective. And understanding karma, right? Karma literally means action. So this is, I commend you and the work that you're doing. You're doing fantastic work. And but it could definitely can be hard, and I have my battles doing it as
Yes.
well. It's very time consuming. Obviously, a whole bunch of people, the majority of people don't value this type of work, right? So we have to create resources and keep it going. But willpower and care is required. And yeah,
Yes.
man,
Yeah. And what beautiful words to finish on. You know,
I love it.
uh, thank you so much, Will, for being there and to share your wisdom with us. It's very interesting. I learned some things. I found it very interesting, and I'm decidedly I'm gonna go look more into your work. I don't have the time as much as I would want to listen to all the people, and all the podcast and all the presentation, but life is going so fast, and I encourage people to go see Chill Will Keller's work, because I think just what the value of what you brought tonight is invaluable to every great worker or every initiates or every amateurs that want to uh, delve into the occult. And you have a beautiful way to explain these things. And I want to thank you for your work. Your work is very important.
Thank you, brother. That means a lot. That really does mean a lot, man. And I appreciate you and all the work that you're doing. I try to tap into your live shows as much as possible, and I listen to other content creators.
Yes.
I think we need to unify upon principles. We can learn from each other. We can we can push and motivate each other, right, in healthy competition type terms, but and help each other grow and evolve. This is a
Yes.
process, and it's going to be ongoing, and support needs to be there. So I thank you very much for having me on, and to all the viewers that have checked out this episode. That's awesome. If people want to check out my work, they can go to, I have a couple websites, naturalfreedomleague.com, where my partner John and we have a website that we manage there, and do events and a video podcast. And then you can go to the onegreatworknetwork.com,
Yes.
and all my work is posted there under Will Keller. And then, of course, we have the Funnel 2 conference coming up, and that
Yes.
is freedomundernaturallaw.com, September
Yes.
10th and 11th, free online event. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun and inspiring, and that's our goal.
Oh, I'm gonna be there for sure. You can count on me, man. I've seen all the people, and it was, oh my god.
We have a great
That's
lineup. It's gonna be
Yes.
awesome. We have, and the format we're using, we're doing all different types of creative expression. We got dance, we got music. I mean, we got all kinds of really great stuff. So it's going to be entertaining and educating.
Nice.
And yeah, man, thank you.
So thank you everyone for being there, and the people commenting. You, there's Brendan Spencer. We're gonna have one real soon together, and then I'm gonna have Derek for next week on Wednesday. We're gonna talk about alchemy and artistry together. It's gonna be a good show too. Very different. I like having a wide uh, kind of subject. I like this stuff. I'm very excited by this too. And thank you everyone. Thank you for supporting the LIBERcast by participating in it, and the people who are on Facebook page and things. Thank you very much everyone. So have a good night, and see you Wednesday next week.
Thank you, everyone.